My channel, the Who's Ready for Some Fighting Words. In this video, I want to do a recap of Virgil Ortiz's win over Michael Mckinson. And I just have to say really quick, I got a lot of flack for saying Virgil Ortiz was going to win. And let me tell you something. Again, you should look at my fight breakdowns because he won exactly how I said he was going to win. And, really quick, people, we got to stop saying everything is, like picking sides, and sometimes some guys are just better than other guys. It's the reality, and it's a reality in the sport. One guy is going to be better, and one guy typically is going to be obviously better before they even get into the ring with each other. And Virgil Ortiz was obviously better before they even got into the ring with each other. It doesn't mean that I'm pro this guy or pro that guy. I've said it many times before, and I'll say it again, and I'll probably say it on my deathbed. Give it to the strongest. I am not invested in anybody other than the sport of boxing. I like to see skill. I like it when guys go all out and they put their heart on the line. And if you're going to go in there, you fight for it. And if you win it fair and square, by all means, you deserve to have it. And if you have that instinct where it's ahead of time, we can see it, yeah, I'm going to point it out. I'm going to simply say that individual has it. I could be wrong. I have been wrong in the past, but with this one, I was not wrong. I haven't been wrong lately, but still, in this one, I haven't been wrong. So let's just jump on into this. What are the things that I said were going to give Michael Mckinson some problem when he was facing Virgil Ortiz? One, that consistent jab. And sure enough, what was a weapon to be used in the fight? A consistent jab. I also said that it was going to be some forward pressure. And Mckinson needs space to operate, because when you're doing all that flashy stuff and, you're just being spontaneous and in the moment, you need time to operate. You need space to operate. You need space to be creative. And, Virgil Ortiz wasn't going to give out any space. He was going to close the gap. He's going to close the gap quickly every single round, and that's exactly what he did. And, it's funny because, they asked Bud Crawford, how he was looking at the fight. And he said, Virgil Ortiz he's overloading on these punches. And I agreed, he was overloading. But I also said that in the fight breakdown. I said he's not going to have any respect for Michael Mckinson's punching power. As a result, he's not going to fear anything coming back at him. And as a result, he's going to go forward. He's going to go forward full steam ahead. And he's just going to load up and throw headshots. Primarily, that's what he was doing. When he did do it, and he was consistent with the body attack, but he had a lot of success with the body attack. But because he didn't have any fear of what was coming back, he was throwing a lot of headshots. And I don't blame him. Listen, if you don't feel like somebody's hitting hard, and now you can put yourself in a certain range, in a certain space of danger, knowing that there is no danger, why not shoot headshots? I don't blame him. So, that's my take on what Bud said. I agreed with him, but he also had to realize why he was doing it. He was doing it because he knew there was no fear of getting knocked out by Michael Mckinson. Now, another thing that I said Michael Mckinson would be, kind of off in his balance, and he was. He was just shooting kind of weird angled shots, and it wasn't that effective. Normally when you do something like that, you need to keep your guy busy, or especially a heavy puncher like Virgil Ortiz. You got to keep him busy with something. You can't keep him busy with your footwork. And, Virgil Ortiz did miss a few punches. I got to give Michael Mckinson, his props. His footwork was from time to time, it was, pretty good until he would get tracked down. And then, he would take a few. Now, he would, and again, I got to give him some props as well. He took some bombs from Virgil Ortiz, and, he stayed the course, and he would even fire back. Unfortunately, like I said in my fight breakdown, the problem is with Michael Mckinson is he doesn't throw in punches. He doesn't throw in bunches. And with Virgil Ortiz, listen, if you're not going to hit hard, you need to throw a lot. Simple as that. If you're not going to hit hard, you need to throw a lot, because you're not going to win the fight with, footwork. You got to win the fight with punches. So that's just that. And he wasn't committing to anything. And I would say by round 3, it was very clear who was in control of the fight. And it was very clear Michael Mckinson did not want to stand in front of Virgil Ortiz by round 3. It was very, very, very clear. And if it wasn't for his footwork, and if it wasn't for his elusiveness, and if it just, wasn't for his humbleness in the ring, because he was being humbled. Listen, I don't want to stand in front of this guy. If he would have done that, it would have ended early. It would have ended like around 5 or 6, maybe 4 or 5 or 6, maybe 4 or 5. The way it was looking, it was, like I said, by round 3, it was kind of clear. He was getting hit hard and he didn't like it. And he was getting on that bike and he was circling around. I don't knock him for doing that, but it was clear ahead of time who was going to be the bigger puncher. It was clear ahead of time who was going to be the aggressor. It was clear. And, again, just I like Michael Mckinson. I like when guys think outside the box. I like that unorthodox style. But he needs to, triple up on jabs or something like that if you're going to fight like that. Because the only way you're going to fight like that is if you have an individual who's willing to give you what you need. Which, honestly, all he needs for that style is space. That's it. With a style like that, if you have space, there isn't too much you can't do. If you have space, if your opponent respects you that much that he will give you space, you can run circles around him. It's not a thing of, in that case now that you hit hard, it's a thing of every time I try to hit this guy, I'm swinging at air. I'm not catching him. And it can be frustrating. It can be really frustrating when you have somebody who's in there like a wizard and you just can't catch him. You look at any of Lara's fights and early in his career, it was frustrating for guys. You look at his fight against Canelo, it was frustrating for Canelo. 1 minute he's here, the next minute he's over here, and then the next minute he'll pop you and then be back over there. It's frustrating. He's not willing to engage. And just as fighters, we do want some form of contact. And when you have a guy who's not willing to engage, it is frustrating. You're expecting something physical, and it doesn't happen. And that's what Michael Mckinson needs. If he's going to fight like that, he needs somebody who's either really slow in their footing, or somebody who, like himself, likes space. Now, if he has somebody who's really slow, then it's highlight reels all night. And if it's somebody like himself who just likes space, and maybe they live and die by the jab, or, maybe even the two, well, then great. That works in his favor. But when you have a guy like Virgil Ortiz who just threw up a high guard and walked him down all night and then threw body shots, well, number one, those body shots nullified a lot of his movement. And, number two, that high guard stopped anything that he was pumping out on Virgil Ortiz. But like I said, it really didn't matter. You could clearly see Virgil Ortiz was not, dazed by anything that Michael Mckinson was doing. There was a punch from Michael Mckinson early in the fight, and I believe it was round 1, where he did catch Virgil Ortiz, and he didn't get wobbly in the leg, but it was a good punch. It was a good punch, and it caught his attention, Virgil Ortiz's attention. So, like I said, overall, I think it was a good fight. I think it was definitely a good idea to stop the fight. There was something wrong with Michael Mckinson's leg. But I don't care if he had 2 healthy legs. He wasn't going to win that fight. And I don't care if he had 2 healthy legs. He was not going to make it through that fight. The right thing to do was to stop the fight. Do I think they need to have a rematch? No, I don't think they need to have a rematch. I think when you have a style like Michael Mckinson's and it gets figured out, it's only downhill. Like when you look at Roy Jones, once people kind of figured out what to do with him and they figured out granted, it was the fact that he had that glass jaw. But outside of that, when they figured out what to kind of do with Roy Jones, it was kind of downhill. And, coupled with the fact that he fought longer than he should have. But that's neither here nor there. So I guess the question is, what's next for Virgil Ortiz? And the question has been put out there, what about Jaron Ennis? I say absolutely. Let's do Jaron Ennis and let's do Virgil Ortiz. Why not? Why not? I hate this thing where everybody's like, they're too young. Let it build. Let it build. Listen, There's always going to be somebody else to fight. I don't care. Like, what world do we live in? There's a new boxer coming up every moment, every day. There's always going to be somebody else to fight. So, all right, great. If he fights, let's just say he fights Jaron Ennis. Let's say he beats Jaron Ennis. All right, well, there's somebody else to fight after Jaron Ennis. It's not like the world is going to end after he fights Jaron Ennis. It's not like, well, I don't have anywhere else to go after this Jaron Ennis fight. I guess I'll hang him up. I guess I'll check out I'll work on my golf game. No, there's always going to be somebody else to fight. There's literally always going to be somebody else to fight. I don't care what weight class, unless it's heavyweight, because, there's only like 2 of them that are really good. So it's just like, there's always going to be somebody to fight. I hate that notion, like, we should just wait and let it build and let it build and let it build. Let's not let it build, people. Let's not let it build. Back in the day, nobody let anything build. In the 90s, nobody let anything build. In the 80s, nobody let anything build. In the 50s, 40s, nobody let anything build. They just fought. Let them fight. I have no issues with Jaron Ennis and Virgil Ortiz fighting. Absolutely. I say bring that fight on. I want to see that fight. I want to see that fight. Because Jaron Ennis is extremely similar to Michael Mckinson. But the only difference is he hits a lot harder than Michael Mckinson. The only difference is he does not mind fighting in a phone booth. That's the difference. So it would be interesting to see what Virgil Ortiz could do with a Jaron Ennis, and what Jaron Ennis could do with a Virgil Ortiz. Because you have somebody who's so textbook boxing, like Virgil Ortiz, then you have somebody who's just really talented, really, really athletic, also spontaneous, also, a bit of a ring wizard. What's going to happen when those two meet? So, but I say let's do it sooner than later. I believe certain fights, they don't need 5 years to build or anything like that. I just think if you were to set it, I think it would do numbers in itself, because those are they're not the new kids on block. They've been around for a minute, but they're really cementing themselves in their weight class. And by all means, I said, let them fight. Let them fight. But those are my thoughts. Those are my thoughts on the fight, and those are my thoughts on whom Virgil Ortiz should fight next. Drop your thoughts down below. I love to hear what you have to say. And as always, please like, please share, please subscribe to my channel.